Hi everyone, welcome to Family Maker Morning. And I've got a really cool story today about a very creative young boy named Condi, and it's called Galimoto by Karen Lynn Williams. Condi opened an old shoebox and looked inside. These were his things. They belonged to him. Inside the box there was a ball made of many old plastic bags, tightly wrapped with string. There was a knife Condi had made from a piece of tin can, and a dancing man he had made from dried corn husks. In Condi's box there was also some scraps of wire. He had been saving the wires for something special. Now he took them and the knife from his box. I shall make a Galimoto, Condi told his brother Ufulu. Ufulu laughed. A boy with only 7 years cannot make such a toy. You don't even have enough wire. I will get enough wire, Condi answered. Condi took his knife and wire scraps and went to the home of his friend Gift. I want your wires, Condi told Gift. I'll give you my knife for them. Why do you want the wires? Gift asked. I want to make a Galimoto, Condi answered. Gift ran his fingers over the tin knife. It is a good knife. I'll cut a dancing man with it. Gift took a handful of wires from his box of things and gave them to Condi. That's not enough wire for a Galimoto, he told his friend. I will find enough wire, Condi said. Condi put his wires into an old white plastic bag and took them to the shop of his uncle. Good day, second son of my brother, his uncle greeted him. How can I help you? I want some wire, Condi told his uncle. How will you pay me for it? I have no money, Condi answered, but you have wires on your old packing boxes from the city. They would make a fine Galimoto. So you want to make a Galimoto? The son of my brother is a clever boy. Take the wires. Chee, 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 chee. Condi could hear the grinder at the flour mill. Many women with babies tied to their backs waited in the hot sun. Others arrived carrying heavy baskets of maize on their heads. Condi squeezed through the crowd. He was very near the front door when someone grabbed him. The women began yelling angrily, "Stop that one! He goes out of turn!" Condi was being pushed and shoved. Suddenly the mill stopped its grinding. "What is it?" the miller shouted. The woman pointed at Condi. "Ah, no," Condi said. "I have no maize to grind. I only want wires for a Galimoto." He opened his bag for them to see. "Playthings, for this you keep us waiting," the women grumbled angrily. "One cannot eat wires." An old toothless woman shook her hand at Condi. The miller shrugged. "There are some wires out back. Take those and go." In the back of the mill there was an open door. Inside there was a pile of old motor parts, and Condi found some very thin wires wrapped in red and yellow and green plastic. I can scrape the coating off, Condi thought. These wires will hold my Galimoto together. Still, he did not have enough for a Galimoto. Condi passed some young children playing on an anthill. One was Munda, the small sister of his friend Gift. She had a fine, long piece of wire, which she stuck into the hard dirt. "Little friend," Condi called as he came nearer, "you cannot catch an ant that way. Go fetch some water, for with that and a stick we will fool them." When Munda came back, Condi poured the water around one of the holes. "Now they will think the rains have begun," he explained. Then he stuck a stick down the hole. Gently he pulled it out, and on the end was a large ant. "My stick is better than a wire for catching ants. You may have the stick, and I'll take the wire." Condi knew there was a trash heap behind the bicycle repair shop, but the gate was locked. Condi climbed over the fence. In the courtyard he found some broken bent spokes from a bicycle, and he climbed back over the fence with his bag. "Thief! Help! Police! Thief!" Condi heard a voice call. Children came running from the marketplace. Men came running from the shops. They made a circle around Condi. "Thief! Thief!" they chanted and pointed at Condi. A policeman arrived and he grabbed Condi by the shoulder. "What are you doing?" he asked. Condi showed the policeman his wires. "I want a Galimoto," he explained. "I need these wires." "Galimoto," the crowd murmured. "Galimoto." And they shook their heads and went back to their business. "Take your wires and go," the policeman told Condi. Condi took his wires back to the shade of the red flame trees in his village. Nearby, his mother and sisters pounded their maize. They sang of the hard work they were doing. Condi sorted his wires. There were thick pieces and thin pieces. Some wires were long and some were short. Condi banged the bent and twisted ones with a stone to straighten them. Then he began. The thick wires made the frame. He wrapped the very thinnest wires at the joints to hold the Galimoto together. "My Galimoto will be a pickup," Condi planned. "It will carry maize to the city, and it will have an antenna for the radio." He smiled. Condi worked all afternoon. He pounded the strongest wires around a pipe to make the round wheels. A sturdy piece of bamboo made the rod for the steering wheel. Finally, the warm, toasty smell of maize porridge cooking over the village fires told Condi it was time to go home. His brothers and sisters admired his work. "So you found enough wire," Ofulu said. "Yes," Condi agreed. He parked his Galimoto next to his box of things and ate his supper. "Let the moon be bright for us to play and sing tonight." Condi could hear his friends singing in the distance. They were calling him to play. Now he carefully guided his Galimoto over the dusty path. "Galimoto!" someone cheered, and one by one Condi's friends formed behind them. "Eee! Galimoto! Galimoto!" they began to chant. Oh, let's see what it looks like. Condi saw the shadow of his Galimoto cast by the moonlight, racing alongside. "It's a fine Galimoto," he thought proudly. "Perhaps tomorrow I shall make my Galimoto into an ambulance, or an airplane, or a helicopter." And that's Galimoto. I love how creative that young boy was and how persistent he was to make his toy. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Miss Carol Ann here with your maker activity this week. So today, Miss Beth read Galimoto, where the main character went around and traded and found different types of wire to create their own project. So today, we actually have a kit for you. We've collected a bunch of different types of wire for you to make your own project. So I wanted to show you a couple examples of some of the things that other people have done. Kind of a lot of different stuff. So you can really bend and twist and like even weave wires, kind of back and forth, in and out. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can even combine it with other materials and things like this. You see how she made a game? Pretty fun. All right, so we would love to see what kinds of things you come up with. And to help you, we're going to take a closer look at that kit, as well as some possible things that you could use from around the house or some tools that you might have. All right, let's take a closer look. So your kit should look something like this, where we've got different pipe cleaners that have a wire inside the little fuzzy stuff. You have magnet wire, which we had in the makerspace. We have these wires that are smaller wires that were actually a part of an old telephone cable. And then this was also from a larger cable. I'm going to show you the tool that I use to take those out. And then we also have paper clips, which are also another kind of wire. All right, so let's take a look at some of the tools to use. So just like our main character, I found some different types of wire that I could recycle and use the inside of that wire to make our kits today. So this is a special tool that you can use to attach special ends onto wires. Like this one's for a phone cable. And you have special cutters on these tools. You might want to use some tools kind of like some of these. Like these are our wire cutters that are specially made for cutting wire. And sometimes you'll need something like pliers. For the really thin wire, I've used some old craft scissors, like for using to cut some of this really fine magnet wire. It's really thin, but you don't want to try and use scissors on something like a paper clip. So you want to make sure that you're using any tools and equipment with permission from whoever is in charge, but even things like a fork. So it's a little stronger metal, and sometimes it's like a different part like that you don't eat with to kind of help pull or to straighten things out so it doesn't quite hurt your fingers as much. You see how that's a lot straighter now? So you can be creative with what you're using as a tool. So some people might not have tools, so like how I use the fork to straighten this out, you can bend some of these pieces with just your fingers. And even for cutting something like this paper clip, you can actually bend it back and forth in this same kind of spot. And it makes it really weak. So you might have somebody who's a little stronger kind of break them apart. I've even done that, like if you have, say, your pipe cleaners and you have scissors part way, you see how it doesn't quite work, but it's made it brittle there. They call that work hardened. Then you can bend it back and forth and break it. It's kind of like how bending plastic too much will cause it to break. Even with some of these, you can see if you make a really tight bend and open it and close it, it will kind of snap. Which is something to keep in mind when you're doing your design. You might not want to bend it too many times because it might cause your project to break in that area. So this one's being kind of strong. Sometimes I'll like twist it and do different things. But that is some tips and tricks for working with wire. Well, hopefully that helps give you some ideas on the different types of tools and things that you can use to help you make your project. And just like previous weeks, feel free to send us pictures of all the things that you've created, and we would love to see those through either social media or through our email. All right, happy making!